Hello, this is Matt O'Leary, and this is a review of the new album from the indomitable, the unstoppable, the terrifyingly talented Snarky Puppy. And I've been waiting 3 long years for this one. It's their 11th album, Immigrance. Snarky Puppy is unquestionably my favorite jazz band out there, and band is probably a little misleading. It's more like an assemblage. The FAM, as they call it, consists of about 15 to 20 members or so that cycle in and out, these top of their game musicians from all across the country. Nowadays, the epicenter of Snarky Puppy is in Brooklyn, but it all rose out of the fertile grounds of Denton, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And it all stems from their fearless leader, bassist Michael League, who's not only composed a lot of the band's material over a 15-year career, but he also started the Ground Up record label and the Ground Up festival, and has just managed a lot of the logistical knots that are kind of inevitable with a group of this size. I mean, just imagine for a second trying to pay 18 guys for the sales of an instrumental album. I first took notice of the band back in college in 2012 or 2013 with release of the album Ground Up, and been following them closely since then, and even saw them live back in 2017 in Copenhagen, which was just... We fly in, it's the middle of the day, but it feels like it should be the middle of the night. We're riding on about 20 to even 24 hours of no sleep at that point, and the song Thing of Gold still made me pretty weepy. Now looking back on their discography, I feel like they really started to hit the ground running in 2010 about with their album Tell Your Friends, where the heavy funk and rock grooves just really started to take shape. And the music of Snarky Puppy is dressed up in this jazz aesthetic. You got extremely long songs and a ton of brass and very complex progressions and performances. But it doesn't have that sort of elitist snobbishness of jazz. It's very globally informed and sophisticated and intelligent, but it also goes hard. I could pretty much go on all day about the minutiae of every single track and every single moment from every album, but this is an album review and it's not that, and so let's get to it. 11th album, Immigrants. Chonks starts things off on a very familiar note with this punchy, heavy riff, but instead of trombone or trumpet, it's this psyched out guitar. And they just brilliantly lag this guitar riff slightly behind the beat, so it just thumps. It reminds me of some West African blues stuff like Tanarowin or Michael League's other project, Bocante. And like a lot of songs on Immigrants, Chonky's structured in a way with these lengthy solo sections, which I think make it easier to improv and sequence in a live setting. The ending is just this Van Halen-esque guitar soloing and this heavy metal riff underneath it. It's a great climax that makes the whole 8 minutes pay off and makes it worth it. The downside here is that some of the songs on this thing lose a little bit of momentum with just these long solo passages. Late in the band's career, probably starting around 2015 Silva, they've infused a lot more subtlety into their grooves. They don't rely as much on virtuosic playing and these fancy rhythms to prove themselves, to prove their worth. And the third track, Coven, is where that subtlety and that delicacy is on display here. Coven incorporates some mellotron and some lush pads and synths that give it this very Pat Metheny sort of 80s Lyle Mays vibe. There's also some strong Division Bell era Pink Floyd on here, like a little moment that sounds exactly like Gilmour's solo from Marooned. This song doesn't quite stick the landing as well as another very subtle electronic track like Beatbox did from 2016's Culture Vulture. That album was the first one from Snarky Puppy, recorded in the studio, not in front of a live audience. And I feel like it really refreshed their sound on Beatbox. They were able to layer tracks and perfect tracks in a way they hadn't before. And you can tell on songs like Coven or Bling Bling that this is another studio album. And I do love on Coven how the Moog synth takes over bass duties, which gives it this very futuristic edge. And I love the back and forth, the ping-ponging on Bling Bling between these more experimental sections with some stuttering electronics and then these more wide open sections with more classical saxophone melodies. Another highlight for sure is the song Xavi, which has this kind of slinky spy movie flute melody that starts things off and then eventually moves to the brass when the energy kind of picks up. Xavi does everything Snarky Puppy already does well without really changing the formula too much. Everything circles around this simple little bass line and these frenetic hand drums. It all culminates with this big payoff melody, this big chorus that sounds so good. Brings back some of those freaky synth just craziness from like the most beloved Snarky Puppy track, Lingus. The song's back half does get lost a little bit in this unfocused composition, and that bleeds into the very wallpaper While We're Young. And the last moment here that feels fresh, that feels unique, is the closer, Even Us. And it goes back to some of those opulent Arabic grooves from the song Shofukan from arguably their best album, We Like It Here. I looked it up, and that kind of odd, unfamiliar sound of that string instrument is, I don't actually know how to say it, but it's spelled O-U-D. And it's kind of similar to like the lute. Some of the riffs on this song just have a little bit of the tone of like Pull Me Under from Dream Theater. I think it's not only the way it's written, but it's also that gorgeous chorus effect on it, which makes it sound so dark and mysterious. And then the string part on top of that very proggy riff brings a little slice of Italy to the mix. Instantly that descending somber melody feels familiar. And this song, Even Us, does something that I feel like a lot of Immigrance doesn't, which is just bring a slightly new flavor to an already really well explored, really well established Snarky Puppy sound. I do really enjoy this album, but I feel like I was wishing Immigrance would take the studio trickery of the band to the next level. In a way that Culture Vulture did, in my opinion, and that album just felt altogether more memorable. So this is a 7 out of 10, a pretty solid addition to the Snarky Puppy canon, even if it doesn't stand out from the pack in any significant way. What is your favorite Snarky Puppy album? Let me know, I'm pretty interested. Mine is probably We Like It Here, followed closely by Silva. Also, let me know if this album does stand out in some way that I just haven't quite caught on to yet. I'm going to give it a lot more time because it just came out. If you've been watching these videos and haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. And as always, thank you so much for watching.